Hey guys, welcome back to the Sports Talk with Hawk podcast. Today, we look at the Los Angeles Chargers, the other team in LA. Tell you what, this team has a very bright future. It's got the coach to take them all the way. But what steps do they need to take so that that next step can be reached in 2025? Let's check it out. Here we go. All right, everybody, welcome back in on a glorious Monday. Hopefully your work week started out well. Today we're looking at the Los Angeles Chargers, the team that definitely is right on the edge of being able to compete at a very high level. The only thing is they've got a lot of holes to potentially fill, but over $95 million in cap space will probably help that out a lot. So let's take a look at the team in general. They've got 30 free agents, and I'm working this backwards just because the numbers on here are so large for a team that made the playoffs. 30 free agents, 27 of them are unrestricted. So let's take a look at the free agents before we go through the stats and before we go through everything else. The most notable is obvious going to be Khalil Mack. If I'm the Chargers, I am definitely bringing him back. His play style ages well in the NFL. This is a big reason why I believe certain teams should really go after Myles Garrett. And honestly, this is a team I think really should pursue him. I really believe that Myles Garrett could give this team the ability to compete on a high level with a defense that dominates even more, taking pressure off of Justin Herbert and the offense. The free agents, Khalil Mack's the well-known one, Taylor Heinicke, Morgan Fox, the defensive end, Christian Fulton, the corner, DJ Chark, the wide receiver, Perryman, the linebacker, Asante Samuel Jr. This is one that I call an absolute bust as of right now. Maybe he will be able to go somewhere else. Maybe a different defensive coordinator can unlock him. He has not stood up to the hype coming out of college, and I thought that was unfortunate. I didn't know if he could be as dominant as his dad, but the reality is I definitely thought he would be better. It really doesn't make any sense to me why he's not. So you got Puna Ford, the defensive end, J.K. Dobbins, Marcus May, Tony Jefferson. So you got two safeties, Eli Apple, Elijah Molden, another two corners, Jalen Reagor, the wide receiver, Hayden Hurst is a tight end as well. 30 free agents, 27 unrestricted. It's going to be really interesting to see how this team gets filled out. Now, the stats from last year show exactly why Jim Harbaugh was hired, and here they are. So for the 2024 season, let's take a look at this. They were 20th in total offense, 19th in passing, and they were 17th in rushing. They averaged 324 total yards, 213 through the air, and 111 on the ground. They averaged 24 points per game. Now, defensively, they were really good. They were the 11th best defense in the league, 7th against the pass, 7th, and then 14th against the run. They averaged allowing 324 yards a game. They allowed 207 of those yards through the air and 117 on the ground. So, honestly, the defense, pretty solid. And the cap casualties that I thought were going to take place last year, Derwin James and a couple others, have not ended up hurting them. And you've got over $90 million in cap space. Khalil Mack, do I think he's a guy that should get $20 million a year? Absolutely not. Do I believe Khalil Mack is smart enough to understand that? Yes. If you could get Khalil Mack and Myles Garrett, I would absolutely do it. For 1 year. Now, the only thing that I'm going to say when it comes down to this, and we'll go over the turnover differential here in a second. The only thing that really comes down to here is the fact they need wide receivers, and it's not a great wide receiver draft. So they will have to get wide receivers through free agency. It's not going to be easy. They will have to definitely pay money to get them, but it can be done. They will need to redo their secondary as well. I believe that can be done in the draft. As you see, they have their full slate of picks in the draft, 7 picks in the draft. They pick at number 22 in the first round. So honestly, they could really work this draft rather well, and I think Jim Harbaugh, once again, will have that advantage. But they need a running back that can be the bell cow. They really do need a running back that can just be that guy. And they don't have it right now. I love J.K. Dobbins. I loved him when he came into the league. Injuries. Injuries matter. Injuries take a huge part. He can't stay healthy. Gus Edwards can't stay healthy. Just the way that everything looks right now in that backfield for the Chargers, they need somebody. They need to draft somebody. Probably, I think Caleb Johnson from Iowa fits with what Jim Harbaugh does. I think he fits really well. Now, when you look at the defense, let's pivot back to the defense. What if they do get Myles Garrett? Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, Myles Garrett. You're able to then rotate and keep people fresh, but you're also able to minimize somewhat the injury risk. Because you don't need those guys. Listen, they're making the playoffs, okay? Unless something happens to Justin Herbert, the Chargers can make the playoffs. They will make the playoffs. They'll be a wild card team, or they could win the division, depending on how everything plays out. Your defense doesn't need much improving. They were plus 12 in the turnover differential, and this is why. 17 interceptions, almost averaged one interception. They averaged one interception per game, and also 14 fumbles. They almost averaged 2 takeaways, just short of 2 takeaways a game. Giveaways, they only gave away the ball 11 times through interceptions and 8 times fumbling on the ground. So they averaged giving the ball away once, and they averaged taking it away almost twice. That is how you win in the NFL. I love where this team is going. Last year, you guys remember, I called it Jim Harbaugh will go to the playoffs. I said immediately, Jim Harbaugh is going to go to the playoffs. This team is going to be too good not to. I felt like it was a little bit too Justin Herbert reliant to win. And in the playoff game, guess what happened? The Texans were better defensively against their offense. And that's exactly what happened. They didn't have the weapons yet. They don't have the weapons to be able to truly compete at a high level. They need a legitimate tight end. They need another receiver. Ladd cannot do it by himself. Absolutely cannot do it by himself. But I would say look out for this team to make a move. And I'm going to throw a couple names out there because I think The Myles Garrett trade, it's not really out of the box because anybody that's got cap room and has draft capital can make that move right now. And the Chargers are interested in winning now. And it wouldn't be mortgaging the future. And I think you could really do a lot. So my thought for what they need to do out of the box is they need to go and they really need to get some receivers. They need to get skill position players. I would absolutely go after one of two teams. I would either go after Evan Ingram from the Jacksonville Jaguars or Kyle Pitts from the Atlanta Falcons. There are a lot of people that have been complaining about Kyle Pitts down in Atlanta. Anybody that watches football could see Pitts was frustrated. Players get frustrated too. He was frustrated with having quarterbacks that couldn't even get the ball 10 yards downfield. He was stuck with Desmond Ridder. He was stuck with a really bad Kirk Cousins. He was stuck with a quarterback like Taylor Heinicke who just had moments during the game. I get it. I get it. You get tired of putting your body out there on the line game after game for somebody who isn't worth it. I absolutely understand this. Okay, I get it. Kyle Pitts with Jim Harbaugh would be an absolute weapon. Now, another guy I think you could get then is Darnell Mooney. Atlanta is not getting any, they're not scouting any offensive players. But I believe if you make those moves, Atlanta would then be open to getting different players. I think Michael Mayer in Atlanta would work really well, protecting and then going out in a route with Michael Penix. Brock Bowers kind of moved Mayer out of the way, but he's a really good tight end. You could go try to potentially get one of the tight ends from the Dallas Cowboys. There's a lot of options. Evan Ingram from Jacksonville and Kyle Pitts from Atlanta would be the top two I would go after. And if you go after Kyle Pitts, I'd try to get Darnell Mooney as well. You need somebody else. Darnell Mooney proved last year he is a very good complementary receiver. Ladd McConkey and Darnell Mooney will probably be the shortest 1-2 wide receiver duo in the NFL. But I think they could work. Now, if you want to go big, I'd go Evan Ingram, and I would go Evan Ingram in a heartbeat. Absolutely go Evan Ingram. And then I'd either get Parker Washington. I don't know if you'd be willing to pay Christian Kirk right now. Maybe you could get Gabe Davis as the second one. I don't know. I'm not sure what the cap split would be with his contract from last year. But there's options. You need weapons for Justin Herbert. Get your running back in the draft. I know there's a lot of people that could say, well, get the tight end in the draft. I think you could really use somebody that's bona fide already. Kyle Pitts, if he stays in Atlanta, Michael Penix is going to really use him this year. Kyle Pitts will have the breakout year. That is one of the things that's already written down for the Atlanta Falcons when we get to July and we do the preview. One of the three things that I fully believe and guarantee Kyle Pitts will have a breakout year. That is exactly what I'm looking at. Kyle Pitts is a really good tight end, stuck in a bad location, bad offense. Arthur Smith was horrible with how he ran the offense. Never had a quarterback that could actually get him the ball. How good did he look after that game against the Giants? The Giants, we know. He was the one that caused the interception of Michael Penix. How good did he look in those last games, though? Washington, Carolina. He was having fun again. Playing football is fun as a tight end. He was having fun, and I think they could easily do this. When you look at the Chargers as a whole, this team is built. If they are smart with their money, they can build a team that will be good for the next 3 years, 4 years. And I believe they will be able to continually grow talent. I wouldn't let Asante Samuel leave. He's not going to demand too much. I would try to keep him in the building and see if Jesse Minter can keep working on him. I believe he's got something there as a nickelback, but maybe not. I may just be more hopeful because I really liked him in college. I really did. And I was hoping when he came out that he would end up being really, really good. It just hasn't panned out. But if the Chargers are going to make moves, I think it needs to be weapons. Because this draft is not good for offensive weapons. I think it needs to be weapons. Go get Justin Herbert help on offense. Draft the running back. Draft 2 running backs, for goodness sakes. And then draft your backup tight end. But make a move. Be aggressive. Go get players that you know will fit into what you want to do. And hey, if you make 2 moves, so what? In fact, because of how this year is, if Jim Harbaugh didn't have a first or a second round pick this year, and he only had a third and beyond, I think he'd still end up with 6 picks because they'd probably get another pick this year. But the reality is, I'd trust him to make it work. Trade your first round pick in a next, trade a haul for Myles Garrett. Trade a second round pick for Kyle Pitts and Darnell Mooney. Make some moves. Get players in the building that are going to help you play. Because the reality is, and you guys I'm sure have already had reactions to the Kansas City Chiefs podcast from last night. The reality is the Chiefs are not going to be the kings in the West this year. They're just getting older. And unless they can really fix their offensive line, they don't have the cap room to really do it. So you're still going to have tackles for the Kansas City Chiefs that are not ready to play. They're going to get run over. You still have a receiver room that you're not sure what's there. You've got an aging tight end. So what do you do? What do you do? Reality is, be aggressive. Be as aggressive as you can be. The numbers from last year are good. Even if you do the same and not, if just a tick better, you may get 11 or 12 wins. Go after players. This is the year to be aggressive. I think the Chargers are in a better situation than the Broncos are to compete this year because they already have a built foundation on defense to stop people. They already have what they need on the defensive line. The Broncos still have to rebuild. The Broncos are a year from being able to truly vie for the AFC West. The Chargers are there. They just got to knock off the Chiefs. And I know there's a lot of people that are like, that's a tall order. They're getting old. Age catches up. Off seasons are long. It's a long time until we get back to July and then we get back to September when we start playing football. They are long. The Chiefs don't have as much money as you do. Be aggressive. 3-year window, start it now. Go after players. Go get them. Be the team that you know you need to be to compete in the AFC West. Go after them. And that's as simple as it gets. I like this team, guys. I really do. I really like this team. But the only way that in the preview of training camp, when we get to July, that I'm going to say they can win the Super Bowl is if they are aggressive. If they make incremental, minimal moves, they will not be able to get there. They need to take a couple swings and get 2 legitimate players, preferably one on offense, one on defense, to play on this team. Go after them. The offensive line isn't bad. Slater and Joe Alt, they're good. You can easily piecemeal the guards. I've said this a lot. The guards, there's plenty of them to go around this offseason that are just serviceable. Get a running back. Get Justin Herbert some help in the running game. Get a running back. Your team is completely different when you've got a running game. I think Caleb Johnson fits. There's a lot of running backs that fit this offense, though. Not going to lie. We got 20 running backs that could be starting that are coming out. Really, really strong running back class. They're just not touted like they should be. These guys can play. And there are a lot of teams that could use a really good running back right now. Like, they need to have a number one bona fide guy. Philadelphia Eagles, Saquon Barkley. Pacheco last year. The 49ers have had Christian McCaffrey when they were making the Super Bowl. I mean, they had Leonard Fournette for Tom Brady in Tampa Bay. They had their guy. You need a guy that you can give the rock and let him run. If the Chargers get that and they go after two legitimate, great players on offense and defense, I think this team is ready to compete next year. They will be a very hard out. Very hard out. And that does it for a Monday morning podcast here on Sports Talk with Hawk. Later tonight, we've got the New Orleans Saints, who finally had got their coach hired after the Super Bowl. So we had to delay the snapshots, but nonetheless. So we will take a look at the New Orleans Saints tonight. And then tomorrow will be the Buffalo Bills. And we're going to get down to the final few teams here and close everything out. I hope Monday treated you well. I hope it was a good start to the week. As you head into Tuesday, whether you listen to the Bills podcast tonight or tomorrow, as you head into Tuesday, have a great day. Make it the best day you can. Please make sure to subscribe, like the podcast, and as always, I deeply appreciate it. Thank you so much for hanging out. Until later tonight for Sports Talk with Hawk, I am Hawk, and I'm out. Have a great Monday evening.